Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's Afro Politics on Cleaner TV in Diaspora. My name is AJ Oba, and I'm your host on this program. And today we have a special guest, Chief Gozie Irogboli by name, who will be taking us through on this conversation. And Cleaner TV is a platform where Africans are being united and celebrated on their achievements. So this morning we have a very special guest on the platform. He is a banker, economist, and also he's into leadership and leadership policies and public policies. He's here this morning, and he'll be taking us through. So before we delve into this very subject this morning, because we're looking at politics in Africa, it's Afro politics on Cleveland. So I would like to give him the opportunity to introduce himself to our guests this morning. So Chief Gozie Irogboli, I would like to give you the floor. In your own words, who is Chief Irogboli?
Thank you very much, Prof. As you have rightly introduced, my name is Chief Gozie Irogboli. I'm an economist by training and orientation. By vocation, I'm a banker. At present, I am a consultant, training and marketing consultant. And I'm also into leadership and strategic development. I'm a novelist too, and a public policy analyst. So I do some syndicated write-ups for media houses. I also do public policy analysis and also aid those in position to engineer and implement government policies. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Today we have our topic today is analyzing African politics. African politics. Before we go there, I just want to take a leap and look at political context in Nigeria, now using Nigeria as a reference, based on the fact that next month Nigeria is going to have their general elections, presidential general elections. And Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and cultural diverse federation, 36 autonomous states, and the Federal Capital Territory. And the political landscape is partly dominated by the ruling All Progressive Congress Party, APC, which controls the executive arm of government and holds majority seats at both the Senate and House of Representatives in Parliament and majority of the states. Now, looking at the scenario in Nigeria, considering also the political turmoil, the turbulences, and all the economic problems in Nigeria, and other issues that has to do with security and the body language of political campaign that is ongoing now, I would like to ask you, the Nigerian current democratic disposition, which is 23 years old now, looking at what is happening, how do you, as an economist, and also someone who has some skills in leadership, and also who has a vast understanding in public policy, how do you assess the journey so far?
Thank you very much, Prof. That question is multidimensional, but all the same, it is it's something we can, carefully assess. Our current democratic experiments started in 1999 with the coming of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as the president in the Fourth Republic. The democratic culture has not taken root, critically speaking. In the Obasanjo's first 8-year term, well, there were ups and downs. We made some progress. Power shifted from the south to the north. When Yar'Adua died, Jonathan took over. Jonathan era should have been described as the golden era of our Nigerian politics. Democratically speaking, we had a president that, gave Nigeria what looked like democracy. There was freedom of the press, the judiciary was free, the legislators did their job without much encumbrances, and we're almost getting there until the current, regime. And in the current regime, I can tell you a lot of things are happening. People are not happy. There is impunity. There is insecurity. The executives are seen as dictatorial. The senators are seen as mere appendages to the executive, and the judiciary too have not been up to their expectations. So the democratic culture has not actually taken root. Not taking root. And once the politicians want to assert their rights without dispensing their obligations, and once still the citizens, the Nigerian public, Nigerian electorates don't seem to know the power they have. The spirited public don't hold their leaders accountable. The democratic institutions are not working as expected. So things are actually in a state of topsy-turvy. So Nigerians need mindset reengineering. Nigerians need to place the nation first. The citizens need to be oriented to know their role in a democratic dispensation. And those in leadership positions should consider the country first. In public policy formulation, in carrying out your duty as a public servant, in carrying out your duty as a politician, there are things you need to consider. The nation should be first. That thing you want to do, is it generally acceptable? Is it legally defensible? And is it ethically, good? So, but our politicians do things the way they like, and nobody holds them accountable. And the masses continue to suffer. 23 years in the current experiment, people are yet to see the dividend of democracy. Nigeria has, gone down to the nether. Nigeria has become the poverty capital of the world, with 103 million Nigerians experiencing what is called multidimensional poverty. So the journey so far has not been rosy. And except something drastic happened in the next election, things might get worse. Those in power do not recognize, as you said earlier, that we are a heterogeneous society. And when you are in a heterogeneous multicultural society, you should do things that will tender to the interest of all. You should not be parochial, and you should avoid primordial sentiments and considerations. This is what our politicians have not done. And this is what is precipitating crisis. This is what is the cause of poverty, the cause of insecurity, and disunity in the country. Our fault lines are on a daily basis being highlighted. Ethnic consideration, religion, and other matters. So that is a problem. So something has to be done, and Nigerians have to speak with their vote. Nigerians have to speak in one voice and get the required change. Otherwise, things will continue to move divergently, and it's not good for the nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. This February, that is next month, Nigerians will be going to the poll, and the new president is expected to be elected. So we're going to have a new president in March after the February election. And we're looking at the federal and state legislators and governors also are scheduled for that February election as well. And also considering the fact that the president will be completing his term in office and he will not be running again. So he will complete his second term in office on May 29, 2023. And if you look at Nigeria since 2011, the security landscape has been shaped by the war against Boko Haram and other terrorist groups in the northeast and also the addition of incessant cases of banditry, kidnappings in the northwest and parts of the southwest. The southeast also continues to witness unrest resulting from separatist agitations. These are some of our major concerns Nigerians have at the moment. In fact, these concerns are still there. These problems are still there. We are going into poll, Nigeria is going into poll with these problems. Now, the question is, what are the expectations of Nigerians as the 2023 general elections beckons, considering the synopsis I've just highlighted?
Thank you very much, Prof. Well, as I highlighted in the previous question, our democratic experiment, the current democratic experiment has not been rosy. And Nigerians have been exposed to much hardship. Politicians have weaponized poverty as a means of controlling the electorate. And now the awareness is high. Previously, we had a problem of apathy, voters' lethargy. Voters were not interested in voting. To them, they said election does not count. But now, I don't know, some people attributed it to a big factor. Some people attributed it to the fact that there have been too much suffering and people wouldn't want to continue in that line. So the awareness is much now. The awareness is much now. As we speak now, millions of Nigerians are besieging INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission offices, seeking their PVC. It has not been like this before. So the expectation is that Nigerians are willing to make a change. Nigerians are willing to make a statement with their votes. So people are scampering for their PVCs. If you go to INEC offices, the offices are besieged on a daily basis. People wanting to collect their PVCs and vote. They have been assured that their vote will count with the introduction of the BVAS, the electronic voting mechanism that will somewhat reduce the incidences of electoral malfeasance. So people are willing to vote. So the expectation is that Nigerians will make a statement with their vote. The expectation is that Nigerians are willing to vote the candidate of their choice. The expectation is that Nigerians will vote and their vote will count. So people are expecting to make a change, vote accordingly, because it's expected that if they make mistake in the forthcoming election, they may not come out of the problem that will be precipitated. People are fed up with the current regime and will not want it to continue. We don't want things to continue the way it is. The country is factionalized, national unity is bastardized, the economy is bastardized, poverty everywhere, insecurity everywhere. And the current regime seem not to be, seem incapacitated. I wouldn't say they are negligent, they are incapacitated. So things are not going the way it should. So Nigerians are fed up, the masses are tired, and the politicians themselves too are tired. So the expectation is that Nigerians would make a change, or the change that will make or mar the nation. If they don't get it right now, the country may be heading into a deeper problem. So the expectation is that Nigeria will do the right thing.
Okay, thank you. As an economist, before we go to a break, I would like to have your view on this. In as much as Nigeria is preparing for election next month, we're going to be looking at the economic state of Nigeria. Now, the economic overview of the country following the pandemic-induced recession in 2020, Nigeria's economic growth recovered just a little bit, but it is not stable. It weakened by so many factors amidst commodity stocks, depreciating currency, trade restrictions, monetization of the deficit, inflation is surging and pushing millions of Nigerians into poverty. And since 2021, Nigeria is also unable to benefit from the surging global oil prices. You can see, as oil production has fallen to historic lows and petrol subsidy continues to consume a larger share of the gross oil revenues. If you look at Nigeria now, you see that what that is supposed to improve the economy of the country is no longer there. That is to say, even when they are there, they are not beneficial. There is no accountability to say we can recover from these sources. We are known as oil giants in Africa. But the way things are, there is nothing that shows that we are benefiting from the oil that we have. So as an economist, looking at Nigeria's economy, if you look at in 2018, 40% of Nigerians, that is 83 million people, live below the poverty line. While another 25%, that's about 53 million, we are vulnerable. Now, look at Nigeria's population growth, which has continued to grow overwhelmingly. The number of Nigerians living in extreme poverty is set to rise by 7.7 million between 2029 to 2024, that is next year. And now we have election before us. What that means is that Nigeria will not just need an ordinary president to assume office. Nigeria will need an economist, someone who will be able to manage the resources on ground to fill the gap. Because we have resources we can't manage, and Nigerians are wallowing in poverty. As an economist, what would be your view in that respect?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, Nigerian economic situation is simply pathetic. Pathetic, and this is attributable to many factors. Number one is poor economic planning. Our politicians are selfish. They are revanchists in implementing policies or in design and implementing policies. They don't think global. They don't think national. They think of self. Now, this is the election year. I bet you all government budgets at the federal, national, and state level are targeted towards the election. Because most of these will vying for positions, whether serving an incoming one, think that policies about investing in election. They spend so much in election, precipitating violence, precipitating electoral malfeasance, both vote buying and voters' inducement. When they enter office, because of the huge amount of money spent on electioneering, their primary target wouldn't be to help the masses or to grow the economy. Their primary target would be to what? To recover the money they spent during the election period. And in that process, all projects in the budget will not be, some of the projects in the budget will not be implemented. The funds will be diverted towards recouping their expenditure. Secondly, after the first 2 years, the next 3 to 4 years, all the attention will be on what? The next election. In that case, they will not invest in new budgets. Rather, they'll be accumulating funds for the next election. So it's like a vicious circle. And even when they hire economists, the economy might give them an advice. They give them the required advice. But it's the onus on the politician to do what? To implement them. So it's not about hiring economists. A good leader will always want to do what? Identify good hands, good brains, people, professionals in different fields to help them implement their policies, design good policies, do good future, do planning, strategic planning, scenario analysis in order to do what? In order to identify good programs that will help the economy. But our politicians are not thinking along that line. Their business is what? To perpetuate themselves in office. Those in office want to remain in office. Even when it is compulsory, they will leave. They want to install a crony, a puppet that will cover up their track and probably continue with their policies. So that is the problem. They are not there to grow the economy. They are not there to design and implement programs that will help the masses. Rather, to them, it is like to their advantage, keeping people down. That is, they weaponize poverty, keeping people down so that when it is time for election, they can buy them with pittance. Imagine a politician going to polling booth to distribute 1,000, 10,000. During an electioneering campaign, they will go to the city streets, buy people 1,000 in order to rent crowd for the election. So they are not planning. But if a leader really wants to perform, growing Nigerian economy is easy. We have the resources, human and natural, to grow the economy. But they don't seem to show interest. Our president filtered over $1 billion prospecting for oil in Niger Delta. Sorry, in the Lake Chad region. To me, that's a colossal waste. The one you have you been able to use them? Our refineries are not working. Every year you spend more than half of the budget in the name of subsidy. These monies could be channeled into infrastructural development. These monies could be channeled into, developing the economy the more. People are talking about cyclical economy, recycling waste and turning it to wealth. What are we doing with our own? We are still flaring gases. So our politicians should think of the nation. Our politicians should hire experts and be committed. It's not enough to get experts, prepare your cut and paste manifesto, bamboozle the masses, and when you come into power, you disown all your promises. And you tell people, how will the economy grow like that? They are not committed. They've not shown enough commitment. And this is what the nation is suffering. So we need to invest in the nation. We need to, and when this happens, we'll have experts, like people like you abroad working. If the nation is doing well, we can turn our brain drain to brain gain. And this will further help our nation. But our position are not taking along that direction. And that is why we are suffering. That's why we are where we are. Apologies to our people. Where we are. Because we don't think about the country. And again, we live in a development economy. Yeah, development. Sorry, we live in a developing economy or underdeveloped economy. Our policy planners should think developmental in all they do. The structures, the economic structures are not fully developed. The economic institutions are not fully developed. We have to build these institutions. We have to build them and strengthen them. We have to provide an enabling environment that will attract investors, enabling environment that will make people do business with ease in the country. It's only when this is done that people will think of investing in Nigeria. Nobody will invest in an atmosphere of uncertainty. Nobody will invest. Yes, in an atmosphere of where you cannot calculate your risk, where your investment is not secure. Most Nigerians now, when they leave, they don't even want to come back. Go to our embassies, foreign embassies. You see people besieging the embassy because they want to leave the country. So our economic planners should think of developing the economy. And the only way this can be done is to provide enabling environment that will make people invest and have returns on their investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Irogboli. It's still Afro Politics on Cleveland TV in diaspora, and the topic is analyzing African politics. On your view, based on your view, what you're saying is that we don't have in Nigeria, or Nigerians don't have, Nigerian politicians actually don't have the political will to convert their promises, their campaign promises, into concrete actions when they assume office. And that has led to massive corruption. That has led to lack of insight in propelling a country to prosperity, whereby plunging the entire nation, Nigerian populace, into abject poverty. So that is the case, which means in 2023, come February, Nigerians have to be very decisive of who they vote into power. We no longer means Nigerians will no longer vote based on emotions, based on political affiliation, or based on tribe or religion. It has to be on personal integrity and track record. Because that's the only way we can hold our leaders accountable. When you put somebody in office whom you know has the capacity to deliver, if he fails to deliver, then you hold him accountable. But when you put someone in office who lacks the capacity to deliver, who do you hold accountable? You hold yourself accountable because you put him there. I think that's the case of Nigeria. So we'll be going for a short break. When we return, we're going to continue with this discussion. I want to urge my viewers to log on to cleannat.com and subscribe so that they'll be able to have access to this online broadcast. So we're on break now.
Clevenard in Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard in Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com.
Hello viewers, you're welcome back. It's still AFRO Politics on Clevenard TV in Diaspora. My name is AJ and today we have a special guest, Chief Gozie Irogboli. Chief Gozie Irogboli is an economist. He's also a leader and a public policy analyst. He is here today to give us an insight into African politics. And today we're using Nigeria as a reference based on the fact that Nigeria will be having its presidential election next month, February 2023. So you're welcome back, Chief Irogboli.
Thank you.
At this point, I want to look at development challenges in Nigeria. See, while Nigeria has made some progress in socio-economic terms in recent years, its human capital development ranked 150 of 157 countries in the world, according to World Bank's 2020 Human Capital Index. That is very, very low. Very, very low. And what this means is that Nigerians must become very conscious of development, politically, economically, and otherwise. So the country continues to face massive developmental challenges, including the need to reduce the dependency on oil and diversify the economy, address insufficient infrastructure, build strong and effective institutions, as well as address governance issues and public financial management systems. We know we have a lot of corrupt practices going on in the system in Nigeria. It has become a system itself. Corruption is everywhere, it's a global phenomenon, but what has kept Nigeria where it is corruption. So how do we tackle this kind of issue? Because these things I'm talking about now has led to inequality in Nigeria, lack of opportunity in terms of jobs. It has affected poverty level. Poverty level has refused to go down because no proper measures have been taken to address the issues. Regional inequality, social political unrest, high inflation has taken a toll on household welfare, and high prices between 2020 and 2022. I mean, we have seen it surging, and nothing drastically has changed in this respect. So, looking at Nigeria as a nation, we have enormous challenges at this point. The election in Nigeria now is a serious business. On the side of development, what would be your view considering the upcoming election?
Thank you. Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I can hear you. Yes, you have actually highlighted most of the problems confronting the nation. In your question, you have highlighted them: corruption, inequality, instability, political instability, lack of access to basic infrastructure, and all that. The problem actually is fundamental. One, I will highlight one, our poor development planning experiment or experience. You see, we follow what scholars may call center periphery development model, which is a colonial hangover. In the colonial era, the colonial powers develop the center where they live and neglect the peripheries. Even when they are putting critical infrastructure, it is designed to evacuate produce from the source of production to the ports or wherever it's going to be exported abroad. The plan was to exploit our resources, or whatever we have, and move it to the metropolitan Europe, where the headquarters are. Upon independence, our leaders, maybe out of greed or ignorance or inexperience, follow the same pattern. In their planning, they neglect the suburb and concentrate everything at the center. Today, Lagos is congested, people are crying. It is a problem of our poor development planning, poor policy engineering. You design everything, develop the capital city, because that is where the politicians live. And when that is done, to the exclusion of the area, there is what's called backwash effect. The advantage does not trickle down. What is the effect? People will live in rural areas, a suburban environment, and begin to migrate to where? To the center. And when that is done, there will be congestion. Unemployment will result. People will leave their areas. When they get to the city, most of the things they are looking for will not be there. The existing infrastructure in the city will not be enough. There will be pressure on the existing infrastructure. So there will always be pressure maintaining the existing infrastructure. While in the rural area, people have left their vibrant economic activity and run down to the city. And when they come to the city, because of one or two problems, there will be unemployment. Some of them will not be employed. Crime. The result of God, crime and antisocial behavior. So part of the problem is poor development planning strategy. in our development planning strategy, we should think of balanced development and not just concentrating critical infrastructure in a particular location. This happens. Once you leave Lagos and move down, you see that everywhere is empty. It was like that until Abuja is developed. Imagine if Nigeria, if Lagos is still the capital of Nigeria, we'll have something like Abuja today. Would you? No. So our development planners should be futuristic. And when you are planning to develop a city or a particular area, you think of the future. You see, most times they develop a particular environment. After a couple of years, you have a congestion because they're not thinking of other regions. So our development planning strategy have to change. That's one thing. Then two, when we are copying development planning, we should also copy and adapt to suit our own peculiar environment. Most times we copy what you have overseas and force feed it on the people. I was commenting on the recent policy of the CBN governor of Nigeria about trying to introduce a cashless policy. And if you understand the nature of Nigerian economy, you see, most of those people who formulate these policies, most of these who formulate these policies actually do not understand the structure of the economy you're operating in, the structure and the challenges of the economy. When you understand that, you'll be able to formulate policies that will suit the structure. You are trying to implement cashless policy when you know that over 60% of the country are underbanked. Some of them don't have access to the internet. Some of them are illiterate. And you are trying to peg withdrawal and deposit limits. Who do you think will suffer it? Those in urban areas have multiple channels of payment and withdrawals. They may not feel it. It is those people in the critical mass on the other side of the digital divide that will suffer it. So in implementing policies, most times our economic planners, who are politicians, don't engage experts who understand the structure and the challenges of the economy. When you understand the structure of the economy, here we are talking about the major activities in the economy, the major economic indicators, the key activities, our development position, and things. If you put them into consideration, weigh it and factor it, you'll be able to come out with policies that will help us. For instance, in banking, now if you are formulating policy through the commercial bank, where you know that over 60% are unbanked and underbanked, you see that manipulating the monetary aggregates will not yield the desired result. So your first policy thrust would have been to do what? Integrate those underbanked sectors, underbanked segments. And how do you do that? Financial inclusion, development banking institutions and structures that will help these people bring in whatever they have, so that when you implement policies, it will now yield the desired result. Most policies designed and implemented have marked deviations from the set targets because of the factors that were not taken into consideration. So one is our development planners should think balanced development. Two, they must take into consideration the structure of the Nigerian economy. The structure of the Nigerian economy. You do not just copy and paste policies from abroad and impose it on the people. The structure of the economy must be taken into consideration. What are the major activities? This policy that you want to implement, how will it affect economic activities? What is the major target? Then you do scenario analysis. When you do this and this happen, what will happen next? These are some of these things into consideration. Then the sociocultural environment. Nigeria have adverse sociocultural environment. Adverse, in quotes. Because of our multi-ethnic, nature, heterogeneous nature. Because of the literacy level and level of awareness. Before you implement policies, it is better to do great awareness, enlightenment campaign, educate the people on why this policy must be implemented. Most times they don't have structures to enlighten the public. And the result is that when you introduce the policy, there will be people will not buy into it. And when people did not buy into your program, it will not, the success rate will be what? It will not be there. Success will be low. So our policy planners should take the structure of Nigerian economy into consideration. And there are major challenges. And then, in designing policies, first of all, you do what is called stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement. You see, sometimes it's a bottom-up thing. Most times the bottom-up thing. You don't just give a policy at the top and then force it down on the people. The people will not buy into the program. Effective stakeholder engagement is necessary. Carry the people along. Let them know. Let them make input, strategic input into the policy, into the policy, in the policy design. Without their input, sometimes communicating the policy will be a problem. So it is necessary that when you are formulating policies, take our sociocultural environment into consideration, do effective stakeholder engagement, engage the people, seek their input and in support. So that when at the implementation stage, it will be easy. But what you hear is you hear something over the news, and before you know it, people will begin to wonder, what is this? What is this policy intended to achieve? And all that. And then the enabling environment should be there. Enabling environment. People live in remote outlandish area. How do you link them up? The infrastructure should be built. The correct economic institutions should be built and empowered. Also to empower the people. If you don't do this, implementing policy is like a hazard. It's like a jump in the dark. And the result will always be a marked deviation from set goals and set targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That's very explicit. Nigeria has a very complex case. Though it's not the issue of Nigeria alone, we live in Africa where we have leadership crisis. And our leadership in Africa is being, how do I call it? It's being molested with, or harassed, engulfed, and beclouded with ethnicity, religion, all kind of sentiments there, which has actually raised heightened political tension and civil unrest in countries across Africa, not just in Nigeria alone. So as Africans, I believe we have a long way to go. It seems the current leaders in Africa are not really where they're supposed to be in terms of global view, because the world is evolving and we really have to evolve. It takes us time in Africa to really implement some of the things we wish we had, that we watch in the Western world. I mean, even when we have them at a cost that is not considerable. And unfortunately, some of those things are actually from Africa. They emanated from here, the raw materials of some of these things when it comes to technology, inventory, and some of these things we're talking about that we don't have. It's sad that the raw materials of some of these things come from Africa, but because of the kind of leadership that we have, we've not been able to make good use of what we have. So we really have issues that we need to look at critically and see how we're going to solve these issues. But what I believe is that the current leaders in most of the African countries need to leave the stage for the younger generations who are passionate and who are visionaries, who want to do something for their country, who are tired of the status quo. They want to see their country move to the next level. They want to change all the negative directions or the shifted norms in their country to make sure that they see the kind of light they've been dreaming about. Now, what do you consider to be the major issues in the forthcoming election in Nigeria? Considering some factors I'm going to mention now. One is election malpractice, vote buying, for instance. So, and other things, other crises that we always witness during election, snatching of ballots, and all manner of turbulence cases. Now, what do you think will be the major issue in this February presidential election in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Prof. Yes, you always give the background analysis before you throw in your questions, and that is also encouraging, gives your person the lead. Yes, the major issues. Yes, number one issue which Nigerians are actually considering is security. Security. It was in the news 2 days ago when the director of INEC Institute mentioned that the election might be postponed because of insecurity. Security is a critical issue this election. How will people in the Northeast, ravaged by Boko Haram, vote? How will people in the Southeast that have been, tormented by unknown gunmen vote? How will people in the Northwest, where you have bandits, ravaging the environment, vote? Security is a major issue. Security of INEC officials who will conduct the election. Security of the individuals who will come out to vote. People are speculating that security might again trigger voters apathy. And even in areas that are a little bit secure, it's also assumed that politicians are planning to precipitate violence in areas that is not their stronghold, so as to prevent people from coming out to vote, as is done in previous elections, where people will hire area boys, touts, and thugs to go and cause mayhem in areas where they are likely not going to, in order to stop people from voting. People will be in their home then and be watching on the television. So security is a critical issue. And people are saying that government should do something to beef up security in order to make sure that voters turnout, voters participation will be as expected. Then the second issue is INEC capacity and neutrality to conduct the election. INEC. For the current dispensation, people have always seen INEC as doing the bidding of the government. But INEC has not been neutral in the conduct of the election. The INEC in the APC regime, the current regime, are notorious for, conducting elections, cancellation of elections, and declaring elections inconclusive. In the cases where it's suspected that the ruling party are not holding sway. People are saying that with the coming of BVAS, the electronic voting, that it will improve the situation. It might, solve the problem of rigging. Solve the problem of rigging. And again, they said in Osun State, the election was done, they couldn't rig. So people are hopeful that the current election too will get the desired result. So that's the position for now. People, then the electoral malfeasance. People are also saying that most politicians are not campaigning because they are planning on rigging the election. So it's another issue. Rigging, electoral malfeasance, vote buying, ANEC neutrality, ANEC capacity, preparedness. Almost barely a month to the election, some people are yet to get their PVC. How prepared is ANEC? So ANEC capacity, ANEC neutrality, security, insecurity. Then the conduct of the elections is part of the thing. Now, yes, another issue is the campaign. The campaigns have not been issue-based as expected of Nigerians. It's based on smear campaign. But the interesting thing in this one is that there is balance of terror. In the past, it used to be one-sided affair. APC, those in the ruling party, prevailing others, vilifying others. But now that with the advent of social media, there is balance of terror. The attack and criticism and smear campaign is balanced. So those are the basic issues. And another one is voters' education. They're talking about beavers. The public don't even know about it. Those in the rural areas. The necessary campaign to make them acquainted with this electronic voting has not been communicated. So people is raising concern in the minds of analysts. So these are basically some of the major issues now that will strengthen now before the election. Yes. And the issue of ethnicity. This one, the pain in the land now is making people now need to think twice about whom to vote and how to vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I got your views. The fears are still, some of the fears are on how ANEC will be able to deliver this election with integrity, without any form of suspicion of rigging it. Yes. So we're going to go on a break at this point, and when we return, we'll be able to look at some of the points that we have and look at some of the things we want to consider before we leave the show. Okay. Yes, it's still CleveNat TV in diaspora, and it's Afro politics. And our topic today is analyzing African politics. My name is AJ, and we have our special guest here, Chief Gozie Irogboli. And we'll continue this discussion when we return from break.
In the 21st century's technological advancement, we all seek opportunities to move and network with the emerging space. Introducing CleveNard blog and event posting. Do you think you have some interesting materials, good content, articles, and stories? Then feel free to publish them on CleveNard blog and events page, just as team of our writers are doing presently. By blogging on CleveNard's blogs and events, you benefit from our reach and network. There are a constant stream of people visiting our social platform, and we have figured out just how to distribute our contents. This means you can basically skip the line and get access to a big audience from day one. Furthermore, we can help you get in touch with important people for projects with possibilities of translating your content into other languages and republishing them on CleveNard. This helps preserve and protect your content from getting lost. What's more, you also get to be part of our team with access to our network and lots of exclusives, behind-the-scenes information. And of course, you get full credit for everything you do, which brings you popularity and make extra income. Sign up now on clevenard.com and start blogging to your advantage. Please see the tutorial video on how to blog or post events on CleveNard blogs and events. For more information, contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com. CleveNard, your blogs, your identity. In the 20.
Okay, welcome back. It's still Afro Politics on CleveNat TV in diaspora. My name is AJ Over. Today we have a special guest on the platform by name Chief Gozie Irogboli. Chief Gozie Irogboli is an economist and is a public leadership policy analyst, and he has been on the platform this moment, giving us insight on Nigerian politics and the upcoming election in Nigeria. And at this point, we're going to continue this discussion and wrap it up. At this point, you welcome back, Chief Irogboli. At this point, I want to look at something, because when we talk about Nigerian politics and the situation or the challenges in Nigeria, people come up with so many issues. We have so many issues in Nigeria that we don't even know where to start. Well, now the question is no longer the issues. The question is, how do we solve these issues? How do we solve them? That's the question. We agree we have issues. How do we get rid of these issues? These are some of the things we're expecting to hear from our politicians back home. How do we solve the issues? How do we entrench democratic culture, the right democratic culture in Nigeria? In few words.
Okay. Yes, as you highlighted in our first question, the current democratic experiment has not been the current democratic experiment has not been as expected, because the democracy has not actually taken root. People attributed it to the foreign nature of our democratic institution. In the First Republic, we copied the parliamentary system. The military set them out. They said it is not suited for us. From the Second Republic on, we copied the American system, and yet it's not working. It's not working for us. We tried the military, we cried, it's not working. So I think the problem is not in the system. The problem is with the Nigerians, with our people. I mentioned earlier that we have an adverse sociocultural environment, in quote. Our traditional system is different from the political system we operate. And people are finding it difficult to adapt. We are finding it difficult to adapt. So we don't copy foreign system and force it on the people. People don't know. Nigerians are used to, in our sociocultural system, we are used to monarchical system. Somebody is in charge. The monarch is almost absolute. He is seen as semi-divine. Whatever he says, everybody, surrenders to it. That reflects in our political system. That is why in some areas you have a block vote. People don't vote according to their conscience. They vote where they are asked to vote. It's only in few locations find people voting according to their conscience. I'm not going to mention the regions for to avoid prejudice, but in Nigeria, you find there are particular areas where people vote where they are asked to vote. So, but the democratic culture will only take root when people vote according to their conscience. And how will this be done? In Nigeria, people pay attention majorly to their ethnic, to their tribe or ethnicity. People pay attention to their religion. So the democratic culture is not rooted. People don't care. In a democracy, you have balance of power: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and they work interdependently and independently as well. They're here because of our experience. The executive controls both the legislature. He decides, for instance, who may be Senate president. He may influence who become the speaker. He appoints the CJ. And because he appoints the CJ, CJ will most likely be loyal to him. He will not be neutral in judicial cases, in judicial issues. So the only way this can be done is if the country will actually reduce the power of the executive. Well, there are more than 80% of items on the exclusive list. Exclusive list, that means the executive control over 80% of the decisions in the country. Leaving the states with 20%. You know, you have the concurrent list, the exclusive list, and the residual list. The items in the residual list, so minor. But the items in the exclusive list, the ones controlled by the executive are more. That means that there are so much power at the center. And that makes that makes the man at the center very powerful. And if he's so powerful, he becomes a dictator. And when he becomes a dictator, there will no longer be democracy because he decides visually everything that happens in the politics. But when you move most of the power from the exclusive list and distribute it, you reduce the power at the center. Reduce the power at the center. If the man at the center decides everything, then he can influence almost everything. There won't be democracy anymore. It's more or less like a one-man show. It's more or less like the executive decide what goes on in the country. Democracy. Then that is for reducing the power at the center. One. Then strengthening the democratic institutions. The executive, the legislator, the judiciary, another the electoral commission, and all the institutions that see to the instrument of democracy. They should be strengthened to work independent of the executive. Why should the executive appoint the annex chairman? Why would the annex chairman not have been appointed from the judiciary? And if the annex chairman is appointed by the president, definitely he'll be loyal to the president.
Yes. Our time has almost run out, and I would have loved to ask you a question before we go.
Because I've not actually attended to this question. There should be an enlightenment campaign. People should be made to know that the ultimate power in the democracy is in their hand, not in the executive, not in the legislature, not in the judiciary. The people, the public should be properly educated to use their vote right. Who should be properly educated to hold their leaders accountable. The man you elect to represent you at the National Assembly, how many times have you gone to meet him, to appraise him, to brief you of what is going on at the National Assembly? People don't do that. They elect the people become lords, and that's where it ends. So people should be the power at the executive level should be reduced, democratic institutions should be strengthened, the masses should be trained, enlightened to hold their leaders accountable. Thank you. Let me stop here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are running out of time. I would love to ask you to have your view on the recent reported issue that the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, endorsed one of the presidential flag bearers, and the implication of that. I would love for us to delve into that issue, but we don't have all the time at this point. We have actually exhausted all our time. I think I will reserve that question for next time. At this point, I'd like you to give us a kind of advice, let's say mostly to the youth, Nigerian youth. In 30 seconds, what would you like to tell Nigerian youth? Because in this current dispensation, and in this particular present electoral process, electionary, we have heard it that the Nigerian youth are more, they have the highest voter card registration. So what would be your advice to them before we leave the show?
Yeah, thank you. The youths is the most vibrant segment of every population. They constitute more than 60% of the population. And they are the future of the country. They are the most active and the most adventurous. I advise them to use their position effectively. Use their position effectively. They should eschew sentiment, eschew violence, and don't make themselves available for politicians to use. They should come out and know that it is their future that matters. The age they have lived their own life, they should not make people, they shouldn't make themselves tools in the hands of the politicians. They should now make the change that they require, that they desire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Gozie Irogboli. It's been a wonderful time having you on this show. It's the Afro Politics Open Conversation on Cleaner TV in Diaspora. So we thank you, we appreciate your presence and your time for coming, and we look forward to having you very shortly in the near future. It's been Afro Politics on ClickNet, and we've been having a wonderful time analyzing African politics precisely in reference to Nigerian politics and upcoming election this February. I remain yours, AJ Oba, the host for this program. And at this point, I would like to encourage our viewers out there to endeavor to subscribe to claimnet.com so you can have access to our online interactions and engagements. Our business here is to unite Africans who are abroad and also highlight their dreams and their achievements. That's why we are here. So at this point, this is where we draw the curtain until we meet next time. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.